Truth Unveiled here, and today I have a lot to share with you. We're going to be talking about the Olympics and what was just unveiled because so much has happened and it's important that you see it with both your eyes. And here I'm showing you an article that says A New World. Rio 2016 unveils official slogan for Olympic and Paralympic Games. And the slogan they just so happen to unveil is A New World. And that's not a coincidence because at the actual Olympic Games, that's all they've been pushing is for unity and coming together. I wonder why they're pushing all of that at such a time as this. Now, before we go over some of the symbolism at the actual opening ceremony, we're just going to read this quickly because it says, the Rio 2016 Organizing Committee has revealed the official slogan for the first Olympic and Paralympic Games in South America, A New World. The motto and the accompanying manifesto were revealed in a special ceremony at Barra Olympic Park on the afternoon of Tuesday, June 14th, just 52 days from the start of the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Earlier in the day, the curtain was lifted on the designs of the medals for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And it's also interesting and suspicious because we also know that this year is also the 240th year of the Illuminati, the capping of the New World Order. Remember, a new world and unity pushing together, that can only mean one thing that they're pushing. But it even says, along with the Olympic torch, the medals, and all of the mascots, the slogan plays a major part in creating the unique identity of each Olympic Games. For Rio 2016, the core values of the slogan and the manifesto are unity, just as we've talked about, respect for diversity, and the will for change. What type of change are they talking about? It is what the Olympic movement is all about, changing the world for the better, said Thomas Bach, the president of the International Olympic Committee at the event. Is that what they're really trying to push, or is there something even deeper than that? Now it's just interesting because at these Olympics specifically, we saw a major theme of peace being spread like never before, which automatically reminds me of peace and safety and then sudden destruction. Is that what they're trying to hint at? And we're going to go over more of the actual tree symbol and why that's so important, as well as the palm tree symbol later on. But we know that this is just another attempt for the Illuminati to push the symbol of false peace. And we also know that this was heavily pushed at the 50th Super Bowl as well, with Beyonce and the Coldplay concert, as well as Beyonce formation into a new world order. Is that what they're getting ready for? And we also know that the peace symbol also represents the symbol of false peace as well as the inverted cross. And this dance right here that they were doing all around it, I'm going to talk more about that later on and how that relates to CERN, because yes, you should be concerned indeed. And if you also take a closer look at this picture, you'll even see that right here, it looks to be what? CERN portals. And we're going to talk more about that in the symbolisms of portals in just a second to come. Now, here are the actual fireworks that are shown at the actual Macarena Stadium. Now, what's interesting about this is when you take a closer look at this stadium, what are you really seeing? What do you really see? Because when I look at it, it looks just like what? The opening of the abyss. It looks like one giant portal, just like the CERN portals as well, which represents once again the opening of doorways, the opening of portals, the unleashing of the beast. Literally, that's what it's talking about. It's talking about the symbolism of completing the New World Order and the completion of the New World Order. And you can see the spirals as well. That's what it symbolizes. And it's very reminiscent of the CERN portals and everything that we've been seeing from CERN. Very disturbing indeed. Now this picture right here is showing you Pendorama, which was the dance and the native tribal dance that took place during the opening ceremony. But what's interesting about this is that this dance is actually pushing the evolution agenda, because that's all they've been pushing at these Olympics. But what's also very interesting and suspicious indeed is in fact the palm trees, because we know that the palm tree symbolizes rebirth, because if you burn down a palm tree, the palm tree will just regrow like as if it wasn't even burned, which is of course the theme of fire, and that's exactly what the New World Order represents. Out with the old, in with the new, order out of chaos. And of course, we cannot forget about all the boxes that we've seen at the opening ceremony and how all of these boxes directly tie into the Illuminati symbolism, which represents all of the black boxes as well. Not to mention right here where we see the purple right here, which almost looks like an all-seeing eye if you really look at it very closely. What are they really trying to show us here? And what I also thought was very interesting was the sparklers and the sparklers dance that took place during the opening ceremony as well, which could also represent the New World Order robots and fighters that we're soon going to be seeing in the streets, because mainstream media is pushing that like never before, but also where they even showed the global warming agenda. And if you don't know much about global warming, it's what? Operation Depopulation, because notice how they use global warming to say that, oh, in order to fight off global warming, we need to use chemtrails and we need to use other methods in order to depopulate the plane to 500 million. And the Olympics is just another way for them to spread their symbolism and their Illuminati messaging. And that's not the only way either, because we also see all of these fireworks here, which of course comes to mind the fire and the phoenix symbolism and representation, just like we saw at the Olympics 2012 back in London, where we saw the Olympics and we saw the phoenix rising out of the ashes. And I talked more about that in my video from a couple of days ago actually, and we're starting to see the same sort of parallels and the same patterns even at this Olympics too. I wonder why that's the case. Now, what also caught my eye and what also caught my attention was the abstract art, and when they decided to feature the abstract art that ran right in the middle of the stadium. But if you pay close attention to it, you'll see that the spirals right here of the abstract art, and you'll see that it's directly right in the middle, but it looks very reminiscent to how the actual stadium looks. And I talked more about this a couple of days ago, because when you look at the actual stadium, you start to see that it reminds you and is very reminiscent of what? The Kabbalah and the Kundalini. Is that what they're trying to subliminally tell your mind? Of course it is. And then we also had the palm trees that exploded into green confetti, which also once again is reminiscent of the New World Order agenda, the burning of the ashes, the phoenix rising out of the ashes, because when the palm trees explode into confetti, well then they'll just regrow again, which symbolizes regrowth and rebirth once again. Of course, we cannot forget our favorite, because they also had to feature this as well, the whole sundial and the sun symbolism, as well as the cauldron, more sun worship, because that's obviously what it represents. But if you don't already know, and in case you don't already know, not only is this worshiping of sun symbolism and the sun worship symbolism, but it's also the arrival of the sun god, and that's exactly what they're trying to hint at, because they're getting ready for their sun god. And it's interesting too, because just a few months ago, back in April actually, it was announced that sun god Apollo was providing over the final Olympic torch, and I'm going to leave that article here so you can see it on your own time. What do you think they're getting ready for? Now, I don't know if anybody else paid attention to this or if anyone else noticed this, but when you look very closely at this sun worship symbolism, and when you look very closely at the Olympic cauldron that was placed there, and the sun symbolism too, you start to notice something very awkward and very disturbing indeed, because if you look towards the back, you see that this building is right here. It's placed right here very strategically, and when you look at it closely, it's very reminiscent of the Arch of Triumph that was placed back in London just a few months ago. And if you saw just where the Arch of Triumph was placed at Trafalgar Square, you'll see that it was placed around the same proportions as this as well. Are they trying to tell us something when it comes to that? What exactly are they trying to tell us, and what could they be possibly be hinting at here? Another thing that I thought was very interesting and suspicious indeed about these Olympics particularly was Gisele Bündchen's her final runway walk during Rio 2016 opening ceremony. And that's another thing that they've been pushing and that we've been seeing in mainstream media is last and final. I wonder why that's the case, because also Michael Phelps, it's supposed to be his last appearance at these Olympics games, not to mention that this year just so happens to be Obama's last year in office, and both the Queen and the Pope have already told you that this past Christmas was your final Christmas. I wonder what they're really trying to tell you. Please seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha, because as you can see, They're literally telling you what these Olympics are all about. But hopefully you see it and hopefully you're awake. This is Truth Unveiled here saying shalom.